Good afternoon, Science Nines. So we are looking at our last day of observations of our nitrate phosphate and nitrate phosphate combined lab. So we're looking at the effect on the control. So that was actually filtered water. So I'll write that down. Okay. So the first one, we have our filtered water. The next row is our rainwater, and then our last row is our aged tap water. And then if you look at the grid, so these were our controls of the three. These were nitrates added only, phosphates added only, and then a combination of the two. So let's take a look at our filtered water. So yes, my background does have a little bit of stuff underneath. So, but if you look into just the cup, you do start to see some red, probably an algae growing. And then we don't see any in the nitrate. We do see some of that again in the phosphate. And then we don't actually see anything in the nitrate phosphate. So remember, the point of the control is to show what the presence, right? So again, we're looking at a quantitative analysis, the presence or absence of things. And again, we have to compare to our what we find versus our control. So even though we found some growth in the aged tap water with phosphate, because we also found it in the control, we cannot say, according to our lab, that the presence of this red organism is because of the phosphate, because it also is present in the control. So again, the control kind of eliminates, of course, a dog hair. So the control will eliminate the presence, whatever we see in the control. If we do see it in the tap water, again, we can't say it's because of the addition of the manipulated variable, which would be the addition of phosphates. So we would actually conclude that there is, we could state that there's phosphate, that there's growth in the phosphate one, but because there's the same growth in the control, that we cannot say that that growth is due to the phosphates. So that was probably going to grow regardless, is what we would look at that for. Now let's go to the rainwater. Okay, our control has nothing. Okay, except for a dog hair that just flew in. So our control has nothing. Remember, I did cover it up with saran wrap during the whole experiment. So the dog hair is just flying in there right now. So the rainwater control is fine. That we don't see any growth at all. The rainwater nitrate, again, no growth at all. Rainwater just phosphates, nothing at all. Again, just so that you know, that's actually the dirt from my desk. But let's take a look at this phosphate nitrate combination in the rainwater. So what's really interesting is we have tons of growth. What's really cool is that the fact that nitrate alone and phosphate alone had no growth. So for some reason, it's the combination of the two that is causing this extreme algae growth. You can see the green in there, a little bit of bubbles, again, because they're live organisms, so they're undergoing cellular respiration. And even the green might be undergoing photosynthesis as well, because it was on my windowsill where they were getting light. So when we talk about this qualitative analysis, we would say that there's definitely some cause from the combination of nitrates and phosphates because the control has nothing. So we can compare it to that. And then our last one is our aged tap water. Remember, we aged it so that the chlorine would die off because, again, it's going to kill it, our microscopic organisms. Again, there's got to be enough chemicals or chlorine or something still in there, in the sense that we have absolutely no growth in any of them. So really, natural tap water with no added minerals or chemicals definitely has growth in the combination of nitrate and phosphate only, according to our sample. So remember, if someone else did this sample, or if we did it in a class, which would be ideal, where we'd have multiple samples of each of them, we may see some differences. But just according to what I have, that is what we get. So remember we spoke about point source pollution and non-point source pollution. So again, point source pollution is where we know exactly where it's coming from. Non-point source pollution, we don't know exactly where it's coming from. Now, something that we, again, need to remember is that there are pollutants in the water that are microbiological. So this would be bacteria, viruses, or microscopic parasites that may travel in water. So for example, swimming can cause exposure to these organisms. And again, it's the presence of these microbiological organisms that often cause this algal growth. So what that would mean is that they would be filtered out in our tap waters and our filtered water, but not in the rainwater, because the rainwater is a natural source. So again, this presence of this bacteria naturally is what's causing this growth. And remember, when we have an increase in our biodegradable material, such as nitrates and phosphates, and the accumulation of them causing accelerated growth, is called eutrophication. So there's our word right there, eutrophication, okay? And again, we're talking about just nitrates and phosphates right now. So your group, or your lab report looks a little different than the one I have here. But remember, when you're following along with your lab, you're gonna have your observation number. So I think we had 5. So observation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have our control, nitrate, phosphate, and then our nitrate phosphate combination. You're gonna do each of these for the 3 different samples. So one page would be for the filtered water, one page would be for the rainwater, and then one page would be for the tap water. Again, looking at the questions, make sure you answer the questions that are on there and hand in your lab. Thanks, guys.